now. Miss Neville.
Mr. Foreman, that funny little grill deal you signed is starting to generate some substantial checks.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2023 sports biography film. And this is a bit of a mouthful. George Foreman, the miraculous story of the once and future heavyweight champion of the world. The film is directed by George Tillman Jr. and it stars Chris Davis, Jasmine Matthews and Forrest Whitaker. Okay, I'm just going to call it Big George Foreman from now on because that title is just such a mouthful. Right, this obviously focuses on the life and boxing career as well as the preaching career, I suppose, of George Foreman. It covers his life from being a small child to literally having nothing in regards to poverty, his upbringing and his move into boxing, I suppose, where he is discovered. I mean, he always has like this huge power, and he's got like this inner anger sort of thing. And then he meets Forrest Whitaker's character, Doc Brodus, who channels that and teaches him how to box. Once he enters the boxing world, he becomes a sensation with his power and quickly rises to the top, winning the World Heavyweight Championship. Along the way, his ego and all that kind of stuff gets in the way. He has affairs, all that kind of stuff. And then it leads, obviously, to one of the most famous fights of all time against Muhammad Ali, where he lost the World Heavyweight Championship. Lost his way a little bit, and then essentially gave up boxing for about 10 years because he found God and he became a preacher. Until someone he knew and trusted betrayed him quite badly, and he lost pretty much all his money, and he had no choice really but to go back into the boxing game, initially in order to make money, but it soon consumes him again, and he aims once again for the World Heavyweight Championship of the world. Right, what are my thoughts on Big George Foreman? Well, I have to say I've been quite looking forward to this film. Number one, I like sports films generally. If they're done right, they can be really fun and uplifting, all that kind of stuff. Number two, I like true story sports films or documentaries. They can be really, really good. Anybody that knows boxing in any way, shape or form knows the name George Foreman and knows the famous fight between Ali and knows about his comeback story. And it's quite remarkable, really, the fact that 10 years after leaving the boxing game, he comes back, and after a number of years back, where everybody completely wrote the guy off, he wins the World Heavyweight Championship again at the age of 45, I think it is, which is just incredible. Really, really incredible. But how does this film stand up? Well, I think this film is really, really good and very, very entertaining. I'm not going to lie. There are some really good stuff in it. I think true to many, true to life sports biopics, they probably miss a lot. And I don't know the ins and outs of George Foreman's life. I've never read an autobiography or that kind of stuff. It's just stuff that you kind of learn over the years. So I didn't know how many times he was married. I didn't know how many kids he's got. I didn't know this, that, and the other, and other bits and pieces. So I thought this film did a really good job, in layman's terms, if you like, to explain the life and career of George Foreman. I'm sure there are many people out there could point out the inaccuracies in parts of this film or some really important stuff that they missed out, I'm sure. Now, from my perspective, I think the only thing I think the film probably could have done a bit better is put the focus a little bit more on his boxing career. Both aspects of it. First, the early part of his career. I mean, it covers quite a bit of him, how he gets into the boxing game and how he gets trained up and stuff. And then it shows him doing a couple of fights briefly, and then all of a sudden he's fighting for the World Heavyweight Championship, and then it's that big fight with Ali. It's like 10 minutes earlier, he'd just thrown his first punch in a boxing ring. and it just felt a bit rushed to me. His rise in the boxing game, and I think they could have maybe done that a little bit better. And also, when he comes back, when he comes back, when he's a preacher and he decides to go back into the boxing game, again, it does the same thing again. It covers the shock from everybody for him going back into boxing, the ridicule, I suppose you could say. It covers all that quite well. But again, it rushes the fights, and then all of a sudden, it shows him having his first attempt at the World Championship against Evander Holyfield, and then his second attempt, is it Michael Morse? Oh, I forget now. I think that might be right. And it's like, that comes out of nowhere as well, and you just think, we needed a bit more, I think, because George Foreman was, at the time, certainly when he first rose to prominence in the boxing game, he was so feared. He had power like you'd never seen. You can still see clips of him now on YouTube and social media and stuff of him in his 70s hitting a punching bag. And trust me, you wouldn't want to get hit by one of them punchers. I mean, he had such incredible power. Opponents were terrified of him and terrified of his power. And even when he came back, he still had that power. But he, because he was like a preacher and he'd refound himself in religion and stuff, he was more merciful, I suppose you could say. The second version of him when he goes back into boxing. So I think for me, that's the only thing I think it could have improved on, a little bit more of his boxing story. But I thought the casting here was really quite good. I thought Chris Davis, that plays George Foreman, did a tremendous job here. And I think I'm right in thinking that, I think he filmed the early part of George Foreman's life when he was in peak physical fitness first, and then they kind of I think they shut down production for a while and then came back because he had to obviously put on quite a bit of weight to play him again when he was older, in his late 30s and 40s sort of thing. So it's probably, well, I know this is a film that's flown under the radar because no one's talking about it. And unfortunately, it's one of those performances that's going to get missed. It's not going to get the appreciation it deserves. I think it's a really wonderful performance, and it's an actor I don't really know. I've never really seen him in a great deal, but it's an actor I'll certainly be looking for in the future because I think he does a fabulous job here, as does Forest Whitaker as his trainer. Is Forest Whitaker. Of course he does. He's a great actor. The actors that they bring on board here, certainly to play Ali, do a decent job. Initially, you're kind of like, that doesn't really look like Ali, but you kind of warm up to him, sort of thing, and his performance, and he does quite well. So this film, I wouldn't say surprised me because I kind of thought I was going to enjoy it. And I think if you're going to go into a film like this, you need to come away feeling like you've learned something about that person. And I feel as though I went into this, I enjoyed what I saw, and I came out learning more about George Foreman, and I was definitely entertained by this one. So I suggest, guys, if you like sports films, if you like boxing, you like boxing movies, check this one out. I don't think you'll be disappointed. It's well made, well directed. There's some great performances in it, and for me, it's a standout sports biopic that I really, really thoroughly enjoyed. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this review. I'll be back with more content on the channel very, very soon.